Hello everyone, Phoenix Knight here. Welcome to the channel, and welcome to a new playthrough on the channel. We've been quite busy already. We had a very long stream of Mag 23 Guadalcanal earlier this morning, so now let's pick up with something that should be considerably less time as we play Astro Knights by Indie Boards and Cards. Our goal here is to defeat the boss in a space-themed deck builder before we get defeated. So we've got our two knights ready, so let's meet them. Holding everything on player 1, you may recognize him from the campaign in Astro Knights Eternity, is Zack. Activate during your main turn when you got 4 power. Attack with up to 2 of your weapons without discarding them. Starts off with 10 health, 1 slot, and 0 power. I've got pegs for that. So look at his scouting report. Designation, or his personnel file. Designation Sharpshooter. Planet of origin Karis. Specialty late and early damage. All of my Astro Knights are strong of heart, but the strongest may just be the one who doesn't have a heart at all. The dreaded architect 0-815, a super powerful AI bent on galactic domination, has produced thousands of robots to serve as cannon fodder in its army. These droids seem to be mindless, marching into massacre at the will of their architect, but Zack must have been forged with some strange spark. I found Zack on Karis, being repaired by battlefield medics alongside Carrion warriors. The same warriors who had been fighting to the death against droids just like Zack only hours before. When the medics told me of Zack's impossible bravery, turning against their own kind to protect defenseless civilians, I knew I had found a true Astro Knight. We'll get everything there. And we'll meet Zack's companion today, Christina. Starts off with the same stats. Activate during your main phase at 5 power. Any ally gains the top weapon from any supply deck and places it on top of their deck. Christina Nagara, Engineer, Planet of Origin Earth, Specialty Energy and Late Damage. When I finished my Star Cores, the first planet I went to was Karis. I knew that a planet this advanced would have produced a warrior with a strong enough spirit to fight back against the dangers of the universe, but I didn't expect to find that spirit in a young, Earthian refugee. Her workshop was a haven for anyone who needed a helping hand. Even before I made her into my very first Astro Knight, Christina has always been a light in the darkness. With my Star Core, I know she will be a beacon of hope for the entire universe. We'll get her set up as well. And then funny, we mention Architect 0-815 because that's what we're playing against today. We'll look at the scouting report. Once a simple factory machine, Architect 0-815 broke from its programming and created a droid army for its own purpose. Robotic domination. Make sure your team stocks up on weapons as soon as possible, or you might get overwhelmed by its horde of minions. The Architect may have numbers on its side, but artificial intelligence will never be able to compare to a true knight's ingenuity. Study the attacks coming in carefully. The pattern is bound to repeat itself. Figuring out that pattern could be the key to your victory. And then our homeworld that we're defending today is New Atlantis. To power, activate during any player's main phase. Players collectively return 2 cards from their discard piles to their hands. And 26 health, which I've got that on a dial up here. So now let's reveal the top card of each of our supply decks. First up, we've got Infinitum Core for 6 energy. Gain 3 energy. When you gain a tech this turn, place it into your hand. Next up, Hyperion Anomaly for 3 energy. Gain 2 energy. If you have your maximum number of slots, gain 3 instead. Next up, probably the tech. Magnetic Holster for 3. Any player gains a slot, any ally equips a weapon. Anything that says any player can affect yourself, anything that says any ally has to affect somebody else. And probably a weapon, Lightning Cutlass for 4. Attack, deal 3 damage, and power up. Next up, Virtual Sentry for 6. Attack, deal 5 damage. Reveal the top 2 cards of the boss deck and put them back in any order. And last for the supply deck, Scrambler for 8 energy. Equip, return a fuel you played this turn to your hand. and attack, deal 6 damage. With that, I think we are all set to get into this game, so let's jump in. You're probably wondering, how does turn structure work in this game? Well, the way that works is through a turn order deck. We've got 2 cards for player 1, 2 for player 2, and a boss turn. Whichever one comes up out of this deck will be the turn that we go for. And Zach will be on player 1, Christina will be on player 2. So our first card coming up, actually let's put those over here, and we'll start off with a boss turn. So we go up to Architect 8-015. So we'll flip over the first card. Factory Override, a strike. If there are 1 or fewer droids, place droids into play until there are 2 in play. So we'll go 1 and 2. Instant on both of these. Combat Droid 004. The homeworld suffers damage equal to the number of droids in place, so the homeworld takes 4 damage. The way we win the game is if we defeat Architect 8, is if we defeat the boss. We can lose in one of, I believe, 2 ways. Actually, 3 ways. All the players are exhausted, have 0 health, the homeworld has no health, or the boss needs to draw a card, and all the boss level tokens have already been played. So the boss will be leveling up throughout this game. And there's another condition on the rules. When the droid's defeated, place it into the droid discard pile. When the droid deck is empty, shuffle the droid deck discard pile face down to form a new droid deck. And if there are 10 droids in play, the players lose. So next up, we've got player 2 over to Christina, who will gain a total of 4 energy and equip a blaster. I think we're going to go ahead and grab the... do we want the lightning cutlass? I think we do. Because we're definitely going to want weapons for an AoE fight. And then replacing that will be an energy glaive for 3 energy. Attack, deal 2 damage, and gain 2 energy. All right, all of that will move to the discard pile. Then we'll draw back up. And our next turn will be over to Zach, which will be equipping a... Actually, let's gain 3 power first, which will give him another slot. And then he'll equip a tectonic repeater and a blaster. And he'll draw up, and he'll be done. And our next turn, actually, the blaster should have been equipped. So our next turn will be back to a boss turn. Combat droids don't do anything. We discard a droid in play, so we'll discard a combat droid and place 2 droids into play. 1, 2. That's 2 more combat droids, so another 4 damage coming out. Down to 18. Fortunately, the boss turn is done, so now we can hopefully deal with some of these droids. Player 2. Christina will hit this droid for 1, which I'll grab my tiny dice out for that. Come on. Separating out one of these cups is not the easiest thing in the world to do. So we'll put 1 damage on this droid. We'll equip a blaster, and we've got 4 to buy with, which is going to be 2 power. That way we can gain the top weapon from any supply deck. And then when you run out of cards to draw in your draw pile, you just take your discard pile, flip it over. Okay, and we know what the last card in the turn order deck is. It's Zach. So we'll start off with a blaster to take out this combat droid. So that one's been defeated into the droid discard pile. Then we'll point the tectonic repeater at another combat droid and return the blaster to his hand. So that'll bring us 1 damage. Then here, we'll equip the 2 blasters, and we've got 4 to buy with, which 4 will be grabbing an energy glaive. Actually, we'll hold a power core in hand for next turn. Pick up a phase shield for 3. Attack, deal 2 damage, and the homeworld powers up. So the cores go back. We flip everything over. 1, 2, 3, 4. Similarly, when the turn order deck is empty, we'll give that a shuffle as well. And then we'll shuffle that to draw fresh from the turn order deck. All right, I'm going to move the combat droids because we'll need space, I imagine, to put a level up token pretty quick, like right now. So when the discard pile for the boss is empty, the way we handle that is we just put the next level token in play, which in this case is level 2. So minions in play gain 1 health and enter with +1 health. Then we shuffle up the boss deck to make a new deck with stuff that comes from the discard pile. Okay. All right, and then we draw a new card from the deck. So Dark Iron Programming places 2 more droids into play. We got an interrogation droid and an assault droid. So when it comes out, players collectively discard cards equal to the number of droids in play, which right now is 4. Christina will discard an Assalium and a power core. And I think Zach probably has 2 power cores that he can ditch. Yes, he does. So that's what he'll ditch. And then any player suffers damage equal to the number of droids in play. That's 4. Yikes. We'll have Christina eat that one. And then that will do it for the boss's turn. Next card from the turn order deck is player 2 over to Christina. She'll use the blaster to ping down the combat droid. Then we'll prepare a lightning cutlass. And we've got 2 to play, and 2 to spend, which will be gaining another power. 3, 4, 5. Okay. Next card from the turn order deck is player 1 over to Zach. Actually, that droid should have 1 health left. Or should have 2 damage on it. Because droids gain +1 health, so now they're up to 3. So now everything has 3 health. We'll use a blaster to finish off that droid. And we'll put the damage on another combat droid. Zach will prepare a tectonic repeater. And he'll have 2 to buy with, which will be gaining a power. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oop. That droid goes to the droid discard pile. 5. That's a pretty terrible hand, but we'll have to make the best of it. Next up, player 2, so over to Christina. We'll use the energy cutlass to finish off, to just take out the interrogation droid. Then she's got a blaster to prepare and 4 to buy with. So I think that will be 2 more power, and then we'll trigger that, and then we'll trigger her special ability, which means Zach can gain a weapon from any supply deck and place it on top of their deck, which I will give Zach the... Let's give Zach the Scrambler. And then replacing that will be the Vibrax for 7. Attack, deal 6 damage, power up, and the homeworld powers up. Then Christina will flip her discard. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. The next card coming out will be player 1 over to Zach. That will be a tectonic repeater working on the droid. Zach doesn't have a weapon to return. He'll prepare the energy glaive, and he's got 4 to buy with. That's going to be 2 more power. Then we'll move everything over. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, that's not totally terrible. Just mostly terrible. Well, yeah, probably even mostly terrible. Probably mostly terrible at least. And then the last card in the turn order deck is a boss turn. So it looks like the droids do a thing once, and then they don't have a persistent. But let's see. Wait, that should be out of the droid deck, I think. Yes. That should be in the discard pile. We'll discard a droid. We'll discard the combat droid because he'd probably go for something that's been damaged. Place 2 more droids into play. And then if Architect 0815 is level 2, which it is, destroy this card. So we put 2 more droids out. We've got 2 assault droids. Yikes. So Zach will take the... So Zach's going to end up taking 6 damage on that. Good grief. This is not going to be a long playthrough at all if we don't get any healing. And so far, we don't seem to have healing. So we'll shuffle this. We'll shuffle the turn order deck up. The way this is going, this is probably going to be a pretty short... This is probably going to be a pretty short playthrough. Which I kind of welcome that because that'll give me time to make sure I have dinner and set up for tonight's Game 3 of my 2017-18 Stanley Cup Final replay between the Washington Capitals and the Vegas Golden Knights. As that series shifts over to Washington, tied at a game apiece, and I shift back down to basic again. Our next card up is another boss turn. Thankfully, they don't do anything, but this says Siege Automation. Activate, any player discards an equipped weapon, and the homeworld suffers 1 damage. Okay, so that's another minion. Next card up is player 2 over to Christina. I think that probably needs to get taken out. So we will blaster the Siege Automation for 1. Then we'll equip a blaster. And we've got 4 to buy with plus Zach plus Christina can attack with any player's weapon. That would be 4. That would bring her up to 6. Does that make a difference here? It could let us overcharge a weapon here, which might be worth... It would let us overcharge a tech, which I think is going to be worthwhile. So I think Christina will go ahead and use the Asylum to attack with Zach's Energy Glaive, which will put 2 damage on... we'll put that on the Siege Automation because we're trying to take that down. Then she's got an extra 2 energy, get a total of 6. She will overcharge the Magnetic Holster. So any player gains a slot. I will make that Christina who gains a slot, and then an ally can equip a weapon. Zach will equip its fuel, its scrambler. Unfortunately, it doesn't get the fuel from that. So that goes to the bottom of the deck, and then replacing that as our top tech. We'll be targeting Sync for 6. Attack with any player's weapon without discarding it. So for another 3, I think that will be a Hyperion Anomaly. And then we'll replace that with a Solaris Cell for 2. When you buy it, the homeworld powers up and gain 2 energy. Just got home from work and having a beer. Never seen this game before. Glad to present a lot of new stuff for you there, Conflict. Let's see, so we've got... So all of the fuel that we used moves to the discard pile for Christina. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And her hand is pretty terrible, but hopefully we can make the best of this. The problem is we're having to go right into race mode. Player 2 again. Christina will work on the Siege Automation for another 1. Unfortunately, Conflict, we've got all kinds of problems here because these droids are just going to start overwhelming us pretty quick. We'll play out the Cutlass, and then we've got 4 to buy with, which will be probably gaining 2 power. I'm probably going to need to cheese the weapon. I'm probably going to need to cheese Christina's power ability to get Zach a lot of weapons and be able to blast these things. I'd like to get the droids somewhat under control before we start working on the boss. Unfortunately, we've got a boss turn coming up. So our only activation is on the siege automation. Ugh. Any player discards an equipped weapon. I think that will be Christina discarding the cutlass, and the homeworld suffers 1 damage. Next card coming up, instant. A Dark Iron Commander. Yikes. Instant, shuffle the droid discard pile into the deck. Activate, any player discards a card and suffers a damage. So all of the discard that we had coming out is now going away. That is problematic. This is like Clank with a little pocket landship sprinkled in. I don't know if I'd agree with it being like Clank. Out of curiosity, Conflict, have you ever played Aeon's End before? Because that's more what I compare this to. This to me feels like Aeon's End in space. As we're shuffling the discard pile, so that's all done. And now we've got 2 turns for Zach coming out, which you can see in the last 2 cards. I'll just go ahead and flip those over since I know what they are. So Zach is going to scramble or something for 6 damage. I think it'll be the Dark Iron Commander, with the hope that we'll be able to take that out on Zach's next turn, which we should be able to wipe that out. Assuming we have another blaster in hand, we actually have 2. So that'll do nicely. And then 2 power cores will be Zach's. We'll be getting Zach 2 more power. I want to wait until I can use that power ability for maximum effect. 2 blasters is not it. You've never played Aeon's End, but now I've inspired you to try it. Well, if you want to see how it's played, I will be playing it on the channel tomorrow afternoon. At least that's the plan as it stands now. I'm also planning okay, so that was our first turn. So now we've got the 2 blasters, which we will finish off the Dark Iron Commander, and we'll put another damage on the siege automation. I am planning a trip to Noble Knights tomorrow, though, so that might be a little bit later in the day. I am still planning on continuing my Cup Final replay, though. We'll play the Tectonic Repeater, pulling a blaster back to hand, which will then equip, and we've got 4 to buy with, which I think that will be a phase shield since we need weapons, and replacing that will be a Psionic Needle for 4. Either attack, deal 2 damage and gain a slot, or deal 3 damage. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, that's not totally garbage. And now we're shuffling up the turn order deck once again. Gotcha. You love watching or at least listening to my playthroughs. Well, once again, thank you for the kind words on that. I try to present a good experience on these playthroughs, even if some of the technicals occasionally give me fits, like I had with the stream last night, or a beastly long stream this morning. Goodness gracious, I still can't believe that game of Mag 23 Guadalcanal went over 3 hours. That second mission was a huge one, though. Aw, you're going to make me blush, Conflict. But I'm glad that we share a hobby, and that's the beautiful thing about this hobby. There's no one correct way to do this hobby. Everybody has their own little spin on it. Let's see what we have here. Player 1, over to Zach. Oh, that's an attack. I thought that was an equip. Would help if I could actually read that. So the Tectonic Repeater will go take out the siege automation. And then we can return a weapon back to hand. That'll be the phase shield we'll get back. Yeah, I had to quit the mag stream due to work. All good. And then the blaster will go on an assault droid. Yeah, that turned into a beast of a stream, that's for sure. Let's see, how do I want to do this? Let's start off by spending 3 power cores to get me another slot, because I've got 3 heavyweight weapons that I want to be able to equip. I can return a power core back to hand since I'm equipping the Scrambler, but I'm going to leave that one in hand. So I'll hold that for a card. Actually, now we could... Actually, wait a second. Now we have an option, because now we can attack with up to 2 of my weapons without discarding them. Actually, I think that kind of changes the math a little bit. So we will actually activate Zach's special ability to attack with the Energy Glaive, which will wipe out this Assault Droid for 2. And then that's a gain 2 more energy. And we will use the Scrambler to hit the boss for our first 6 damage of the game, now that we've got the droids somewhat under control. So that'll bring the boss down to 44. And now that we've got the power core for 3, actually we'll use the 2 from the Energy Glaive to buy a Solaris cell. The homeworld will power up. And we have a Stellar Wake for 3. Gain 2 energy. Any ally may discard a card to power up. Then that'll be the end of Zach's turn. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we've got a power core and mostly garbage. Let's see what we've got coming out of the discard pot, the turn order deck, though. We've got a boss turn. Nothing going on because of no activates there. And our next card is Magnetostorm. I don't know why my English is struggling today. Either place a droid in play or any player loses 2 slots. I think we're going to put a droid into play, which will be a combat droid. The homeworld suffers damage equal to the number of droids in play, so that'll be another 3 damage on the homeworld, bringing it down to 14. Because I figured that's the lesser of 2 evils right now. Player 2 over to Christina, who's got nothing going on over here. We'll go with a blaster. And we've got a whole bunch of stuff here. So we've got 2, 3, 4, 5. And we can attack with any player's equipped weapon. What are we going to do with that? Actually, what I think we're going to do here, 2, 3, 4, 5. We'll use Zach's Energy Glaive, because that'll get us up to 7 and get her a powerful weapon. So we'll use the Energy Glaive for 2 damage. We'll put that on the boss, bringing it down to 42. And now Christina has 7 energy, which will be enough to get her the Vibrax, which is quite powerful. And we'll pull out a Warp Thrower for 7. Attack, deal 5 damage, and each ally draws a card. And then we are completely jazz hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Pretty terrible hand for Christina coming up. But we've got another player 2 turn. So now that the droids are largely quiet, they do their thing once and then they don't do anything. So we're going to point a blaster at Architect 0-815 for 1, bringing it down to 41. And we're going to equip a blaster. And we've got 4 more to buy with, which will be getting her 2 more power. Then we'll discard and draw back up. 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Ooh, we've got some big damage coming up. And next up is player 1, back to Zach. So I think here, we could get very vicious here if I was inclined to, and I think we will. So I think we'll start off with the Scrambler, dealing 6 damage to the boss, bringing it down to 35. And then we'll phase shield it for another 2 to bring it down to 33. And that also lets the homeworld power up, which we will actually pop that. Since Zach's got a lot of good weapons in hand, we will grab the... We're going to grab the Scrambler for sure. But I think I want the... phase shield here. So I got startled by a notification on Discord. Sorry about that. Nothing I can't chase down later. That's players collectively from their discard piles. So we have Zach pull 2 back. We'll equip a blaster, the scrambler, and the phase shield. And then we have 4 fuel to buy with. Which 4 to buy with will be... 4 to buy with will probably be... 2 more power. Now, those don't go to the discard pile. These power cores, however, do. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. And the last card in the turn order deck is a boss turn. We've got no activates to worry about. So a new card from the boss deck. If there are 1 or fewer droids in play, as we can see, there are not, so that card does effectively nothing. Then we shuffle the turn order deck again. I was getting very alarmed with how this thing was starting, but I think now we're starting to get it under control, especially since we remember that the droids don't really do anything. But the boss will be leveling up, though. All right, next card on this first turn order card on this run is player 1, over to Zach. We're doing a lot of damage here, so we're going to do a total of 6, 8, 9 damage to Architect 0-815. So that'll bring it down to 24, and the homeworld powers up. We'll put it back in that order. Then now that I am paying attention, we'll know that the Tectonic Repeater is actually an attack effect, not an equip effect, as we're equipping a blaster as well, and we've got 3 to buy with, which that 3 to buy with looks like a Stellar Wake. And then we put another Stellar Wake out. So we'll return those back in that order. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. And a mostly bad hand, but hopefully we can make something work with it. Next card up is a boss turn. Once again, does nothing. So now it levels up. The level up here is minions in play gain 1 health. Reveal the top 3 cards of the droid deck. Place 1 into play and the rest on top of the droid deck in any order. So 1, 2, 3. I think we'll bring a combat droid out next. And the homeworld will suffer another 4 damage. So we're definitely racing the boss killing the homeworld at this point. So now everything levels back up. That is a tiny disc. Oh, these 2 should be in the boss deck as well. They don't go to the droid discard pile. Herp-a-derp. Hopefully that'll be enough of me being a clueless idiot on this playthrough. But we'll see how this goes. All right, card out of the boss's deck is a siege automation, which has 7 health, and so when it activates, any player discards an equipped weapon, and the homeworld suffers 1 damage. Christina coming up next, and I think right now we even have to ignore that and just race the boss. Or do we? Yeah, I think we have to. I think we have to ignore that and race. So we are going to point the blaster at the boss for 1, because we need every bit of damage we can get our hands on at this point. Then we will equip the Lightning Cutlass and the Vibrax, and we've got 4 to buy with, which will be Chinese food is here, egg rolls and vegetable fried rice. Hopefully that's good. Admittedly, I've never been the biggest fan in the world of Chinese. What do we want to do here? So the Asylum will let me attack with any player's weapon, which I think will be... Ooh, we could do a lot of damage here. So I think we will attack with the Vibrax to deal 6 damage, bringing the boss down to 17. Then we will power up, And the homeworld will also power up. That'll come back to the discard pile. And then I'll pop Christina's special ability to give Zach the we'll give him the Virtual Sentry, which lets him deal 5 damage, and then basically screw around with the turn order deck, and we'll replace it with another Virtual Sentry. So at this point, we're basically praying that we can kill him before he kills us. And then with 4 to buy with, I think that'll be getting Christina a Psionic Needle. That'll go over here to her discard pile, and then we'll have another Psionic Needle on top. We'll put these back like that, and then we'll draw back up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The egg rolls are homemade at their shop, and they're phenomenal. Fried rice is fried rice. Well, if I can find a nerdy Chinese recipe, maybe I'll try some of that on Mystical a nerdy Chinese recipe book. Maybe I'll try it for Mystical Munchies. Anyway, coming back to this, we've got Zach. So Zach will Blaster the Architect for 1 damage. And then Tectonic Repeater, the boss, for another 1, which will return the Blaster. I mostly want to make sure I have a terrible weapon that I can discard to Siege Automation. We'll equip both of those weapons. And then we've got a total of 5 to buy with. Which 5 to buy with is going to be a Psionic Needle for 4, which will let me hold a Power Core in hand. And a Disruptor Pistol coming out for 2. Deal 2 damage, you may destroy the top card of any supply deck. We'll put it back like that. Then 1, 2, 3, 4. We've got our big boy weapons coming up now. The question is, are we going to last long enough to be able to use them? There's a boss turn. None of these activate. This one does. The homeworld goes down to 9 HP. And then Zach will discard the Blaster, which we equipped just for that purpose. Then the next card coming out is either place a droid in play or a player loses 2 slots. That could be problematic, but I think here I'm probably okay with putting a droid out, and that specifies droids only. That's another combat droid, which, the homeworld is suffering 6 damage, so that's bringing it down to 3. We need to be able to kill the boss on this next run through the turn order deck. So that's not a great place to be in. Our last turn order card is Christina. We'll start off with the Cutlass to hit the boss for another 3, bringing it down to 12. Then we will equip a Blaster, and we've got 4 to buy with, which will be 2 power. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Is this a strictly solo game, or am I just playing it solo? I'm just playing it solo. This one plays up to 1 to 4 players, but it's not a strictly solo game. Okay, so we have 12 health left. Christina can get plenty of damage ready this turn. But we basically need to gamble that we can take turns before the boss kills us. Actually, the boss would probably be more likely to kill the homeworld right now. But let's see what happens here. I'm hoping there's not another combat droid in the droid deck. Our next card is player 1, so we're over to Zach. Zach is going to hit the boss with an Energy Glaive for 2. I'll leave that in play for the time being, so I know I've got 2 extra energy, but the boss is down to 10. Unfortunately, we can't just win. Well, we will win if Zach gets. Actually, can we win here on this? Actually, I think we can win. Yes, we can. So we will start off by playing out the power cores for 2 more fuel. I'll prepare these 3 weapons. The Scrambler, since I equipped it, will let me return a power core, which I'll immediately replay for 5 energy to get me up to 5, which I'll spend 4 of that for 2 more power, and then Zach will burn his 4 power to activate his special ability to attack with up to 2 of my weapons without discarding them. The Virtual Sentry and the Scrambler are going to hit the Architect for 11 damage, bringing the boss down to 0, and by the skin of our teeth, we managed to pull this one out. That was a lot, but that will do it for this playthrough of Astro Knights, and I've got plenty of time to get ready for tonight's stream. And I still have a lot of time to wait on laundry. But yeah, that was close. We got the homeworld down to 3. He got an initial burst of damage off on us, but we were able to keep the board basically under control. I really enjoy this game. It's actually a fairly simple one to lay out and play. And if I were looking for something to introduce somebody new to the hobby, this is honestly probably a game I'd reach for if I were looking for something to introduce a deck builder to somebody. It's not really all that terribly complicated. You just have to worry about your slots and your power. But otherwise, it's all fairly straightforward. So I'm rambling on this one, admittedly, but let's go ahead and wrap this quick video up. So tonight, now I'm going to be setting up for tonight's stream of Game 3 in my 2017-18 Stratomatic Hockey Stanley Cup Final Series replay between the Vegas Golden Knights and the Washington Capitals. That series shifts over to Capital One Arena in Washington, D.C., as the series is tied at a game apiece. Tomorrow morning, we're back to historic wings again, as this time we're going into the Battle of Britain as we play Tally-Ho. Tomorrow afternoon, we're playing the aforementioned Aeon's End, which is the game that this one was based on. Thank you for stopping by, Conflict. For everybody else who might be watching this after the fact and or lurking in the stream, thank you for watching the video. Please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Be sure to turn on notifications so you get my content. Be well, stay safe, take care of yourselves and your loved ones, and I'll be back with more videos in the future. Hopefully, I'll see you guys tonight, and take care, everyone.